A big thanks to Mike Foster, a brand new reviewer hopefully to the channel. This is his first ever written review and I think he's absolutely smashed it. As always though, we do make sure that we play the games as well. I've been playing through this one on Xbox and I totally agree with his points. Ghost Song started out life back in 2013 as a Kickstarter project by Matt White, an artist, designer and huge fan of all things Metroidvania. Initially a passion project aimed at being a game made to be played in a web browser, it grew to be a lot more than was initially intended. Jump forward 9 years and it's finally here in all its mystery and melancholy. So with so many great Metroidvanias and Souls-like games on the market, does this Ghost have a song worth listening to, or is it a frightful experience? Well, let's find out. You wake up, and by that I mean your suit powers on the moon of Lorien. In the background there's a shuttle suggesting a crash landing, but as the game unfolds you discover the moon is awash with stray and discarded ships, carcasses of past explorers, as well as a colourful array of NPCs. To call it an atmospheric 2D adventure of self-discovery is a bit of an understatement, and the writers injected all of the characters with a genuine sense of humanity. With each new interaction with the NPCs, they'll have new things to tell you. This not only expands the overall narrative, but also their story, and gives you a little more exposition as well as a small window into their mindset. The dead-suited protagonist will deliver the occasional whimsical line in an almost childlike fashion, with her innocence and curiosity being massively juxtaposed when faced with enemies as you unload a barrage of firepower with ruthless aggression. While it does embrace some of the vagueness we've seen in contemporary games, it did enough narrative drip feeding to make exploration and wondering what's around the next corner genuinely engaging. Although with some clear Souls-like inspirations, Ghost Song, in my opinion, is much more Metroidvania than that, not straying particularly far from the path set by previous games in both genres. You explore an area only to find the path restricted due to a lack of equipment, and continued exploration will uncover a required item which will then allow you to continue on the previous route of exploration. It's tried and tested and repeated for a reason, and that's that it doesn't get very old. The Souls-like comes from the sense of danger that your character's constantly in, but as you get more power-ups and become more cavalier with your abilities, it will punish you harshly, and a simple error can prove quite costly. If you're playing in the original mode, a death will cause permanent damage until repaired, and you can't repair until you've found some of the nanogel or picked up all of the nanogel you dropped upon your death. There is an explorer's mode which lessens the loss of nanogel upon death, and subsequently the damage punishment isn't incurred. Explorer's mode is still not easy, but it's designed to make the game more approachable for those less experienced in the genre. Another nice touch which breaks up the sometimes repetitive nature of Metroidvanias is when venturing through areas you've previously explored, the odd tougher opponent will occasionally drop useful items or nanogel, meaning backtracking at least felt rewarding in that sense. Now when it comes to battling harder mobs and the bosses, there's a distinct change of pacing, which at first took me by surprise. Not a complaint though, as you learn to play the way the game wants you to, that being at a slower and more considered pace when you're exploring, and then adapting to that shift up in gear when it comes to those battles, hopping and dashing over and away whilst trying to pivot back around to lay down fire. It's a solid mix. I'd often find myself sniping enemies at the edge of my range in order to wipe a room before fully committing, and became essential before you take on the boss, of which there are a few and they are no walk in the park. Now while the standard enemies will have attack patterns that are quite easy to learn, those boss fights will require much more focus and attention. Without a doubt they're victories which will feel earned whether you beat it on the first attempt or your fifth. Thankfully there are a few movement abilities to assist you, such as dodging, and using that to avoid the bosses whilst working out their attack patterns is the order of the day. Not to mention the difficulty increase when the boss reaches a certain level of health. While some might feel that it's too formulaic and not revolutionary enough, I don't personally agree with that and feel that it needs to be. It achieves what it sets out to do and it does it very well, and as a result I'd give gameplay 17 out of 20. The controls are as you'd expect. You can jump, shoot, melee, with L becoming a life injection and R used for your dash. There are some sensible choices like the D-pad used for nice quality of life features, be it selecting different equipment or blasters, interacting with the world around you, or even powering down your dead suit. I found the jump to be a bit floaty for my liking. Precise movements and aiming are trickier, with a tiny amount of noticeable input latency. Contrary to that, the dash was instantaneous, almost to a fault with the delay it takes for the character to turn directions. There were times when I would dash in the wrong direction, straight towards the enemy I was trying to escape from. That could be less the controls' fault though, and more mine. By and large, the controls work as expected, and when you're used to the nuance of the way the game is created, it gets much easier, but they could be tighter. They score 14 out of 20. Go Song ran really well on the Nintendo Switch, with the only downside being somewhat noticeable load times. When traversing through the map later in the game, you can dash through areas with ease, only to be slowed by the inevitable black screen that cuts through each one. The backgrounds and art style are beautiful and melancholic, with everything harking back to the same muted colour palettes, which gave the game a realistically alien feel. It feels dank and grimy exploring the underground. Then when on the surface, the purple hue covering the land continues to lay on thick just how alien this world is. When you enter the Six Finger Woods for the first time, the head of what appears to be a giant child can be seen in the backdrop, with the dead suit externally vocalising my internal shock.
Oh.
Speckles of dirt, grime, sludge and blood cover the world here, with nice small touches like your weapon being coated in blood at times on the inventory screen. I really appreciated that. Handheld mode was my preferred way to play. I found the claustrophobic nature of exploring the tunnels was almost built with handheld in mind, but not being able to zoom the map was a pain. You can slightly zoom the game by clicking in the right stick, which was nice for NPC dialogues, but the sprite work wasn't quite up to the standard of the rest of the world for me, as well as some of the animations. It's that familiar, slightly cheap inverse kinematic style of movement, as if the whole thing was once a flash animation. Overall, I'd say there's a lot that they do incredibly well, but a few slightly rougher aspects. Overall, it gets 16 out of 20 for visuals and performance. The music and sound effects all come together to make for a really immersive atmosphere, from the crunch and splat of strange fauna underfoot to the horrific cries of creatures about to tear you to shreds. There's a decent amount of voice acting here too, with a good array of different accents, with one of the spaceships even sounding like it could have been voiced by Sean Bean.
Walk easy, legged thing. The mountain's breath always at your back.
And the soft meandering acoustic tunes give it a lost in time and space feeling, and as such an overall superb audio experience. Sound and audio scores 19 out of 20. Go Song will set you back £15.99 or your regional equivalent, and sadly there's no physical as yet, but developer Matt White is looking to do this hopefully in the future. If you know that you're getting a standard Metroidvania with Souls-like elements but done really well, then I think you'll appreciate the game. It scores 17 out of 20 for value. If you like Metroidvanias, you won't be disappointed here. It's got at least 20 hours for your first playthrough, but if you consider grinding out levels and trying to 100% the game, there's a hell of a lot of time to be had in what appears to be, at first glance, a game of such humble beginnings. It gets a SwitchUp score of 83%. So there we have it. Let me know what you thought of that review. I think Mike did a great job for his first ever one. I had to slim it down slightly. It's very difficult to be really concise when you're writing your first review because you just have so much to say. But yeah, I think he did a good job. Let me know in the comments. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the channel, and as always, if you want to buy any of these games, you can use the code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg to save 10% on your eShop credit. We have pre-orders up now for all the Pokemon games, so if you're going to buy those, you might as well save yourself 10% as well using code SwitchUp. And a thanks to our Patreons and all of our members. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers guys, see ya!